2024 is now wrapping up. Which teams that are no longer in contention have hopes for 2025?
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, where's my lower third? There's my lower third. You can call me Sully. I've been a podcaster for a while, no baseball podcaster, and we're wrapping up my sixth, can you believe it, my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where I was here before COVID. That's how long it's been. And it doesn't seem like COVID was that long ago. Hey, now through this September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you're following us every single day or also watching the other podcast I host, which is Locked On A's every day, be sure to leave that hashtag Everyday Sully, as we know who's listening to us all the time. I'm recording this in the same day as the other show, so there's no new trivia question. I'll put the trivia question on, remind you what it is at the end, and we'll answer it over the weekend. By the way, next week is kind of a bittersweet week. It's going to be the end of the regular season, and I always think there's something about the end of the regular season that is, well, that I always miss. But also, it's going to be the end of my run at Locked On A's. I took over Locked On A's at the beginning of the year because we lost our host, and there was way too many interesting things happening with the A's this year that I said, hey, do you want? Let me do it for a week. Let me do it up. Let me do a week worth of episodes. And if by a week you mean a season's worth of episodes. But I am not doing the double duty anymore after this upcoming week. So we've had a lot of fun on that show. It's been interesting doing 2 shows a day. We're doing 10 episodes a week, which is interesting, which is averaging more than 1 a day. But that wraps up once the season wraps up for the A's. And we'll see what happens after this year and what's going to happen to there. Instead of doing a power rankings episode, that kind of seems like a lost cause or kind of a futile exercise when we get to this point of the year, because there are some teams that are just out of it, and there's some teams that are already clinching. And so when you have teams like right now, Cleveland, as of this recording, Cleveland's already clinched, Milwaukee's already clinched, Los Angeles has already clinched, the Yankees have already clinched. There's one more that's already clinched. I mean, there are a bunch of teams have already punched their ticket. And with that in mind, it's tough to sort of rank them all, because right now they're in the playoffs, and some of them are going to start resting players. The most important thing is to be good and healthy in about a week or so. So instead of breaking down the teams and sort of ranking them, especially if you have teams that are out of it, I mean, they're not fighting for anything really anymore, except a couple are trying to stay above 500. I know the A's are trying to win enough games so they avoid 90 losses. There's some things going on, but it didn't seem right to do a true power ranking. So I spoke with Jeff Carr, who is also the host of Locked On Reds. We chatted about that and came up with an idea, which is, let's take a look at the non-contenders. As of this recording, there are some teams that are not every team currently in contention are going to make the postseason. Right now, the Braves when I'm recording this, the Braves are still on the outside looking in, but they're just one good week and one bad Mets week away from taking a playoff spot. Right now, the Tigers have tied Minnesota, and so who knows which way that's going to end up. But all the rest of the teams are basically out of it. I'm calling the Cubs out of it. I'm sorry, Cub fans, if you don't like to hear this. So I took half of the teams in Major League Baseball right now are out of it. 15 teams are done. I'm counting the Cubs as done. And I've broken them down to a couple of categories for the teams that are done. The ones that are building towards 2025, they have some of the pieces already. They've shown flashes of it from time to time. And a key acquisition here and making sure some of the players develop there, and they have a shot to do something in 2025. There are two teams that did not contend this year who I think this year was a fluke. I think these teams are going to be contenders next year. I think this was a fluke. 4 teams have a lot of pieces in place, but I believe they need a new manager. They need a new person to be at the helm. I think they have some of the pieces there, but I do not trust the manager there. And there's some big managers who are available to hire. Then there are 2 that are just tough to figure out. They could be contenders. They could not be. They're very strange ball clubs. 3 are lost causes. 3 stunk this year, and barring a miracle or a phenomenal offseason, like Kansas City got very aggressive this offseason, and they added a bunch of pieces to the team. But right now, they just look like lost causes. And they're 2 franchises that are a disgrace. So let's break them down, shall we? The 2 that I said are building towards 2025, they have some of the pieces in place. And they've made some, they look like they're on the verge of contention. I think they need to be aggressive this offseason. One of them is the Chicago Cubs. There's a lot of talent on that team. And they came close last year. They came close this year. And I think that they need to be aggressive. They need to make a big key pickup. I think they should be very aggressive on the Juan Soto front. I mean, the fact that there's a player, a difference maker like Juan Soto, who is going to be available. And keep in mind, this is going to be the revenge of Scott Boras, who people whispered, oh, he's lost it after his rotten offseason he had last year. He has a franchise player in his mid-20s coming off of will be a top 3 MVP finish. He could ask the sun, the moon, the stars, and some huge contenders with a lot of money could use a Juan Soto. So he's going to have 0 loyalty to the Yankees. 0. He spent more time in San Diego than he did with the Yankees. He is going to sign with the highest bidder. There's going to be no emotion. Back up the Brinks truck, you get Juan Soto. And frankly, I think that Soto would fit well in this team. You know, they have talented players. They have Bush. They have Crow Armstrong. They have Horner. They Shota Imanaga. They have a nice bed of talent. And I think that also you're going to see the manager is going to do well. And I think they're going to be contenders next year, and they're building towards it. And I think the other team in that situation is the Boston Red Sox. They've made big strides this year. Now, they may or may not finish above 500, but there's a lot of talent on this team. Duran has taken a big turn towards stardom. Their pitching is a lot better than we expect, and a little more consistency. They contended for a little bit this year, and with a few acquisitions and being a little aggressive, they could put them right back in the wild card hunt with Rafael Devers leading the way. And they also have some talent like Myers coming up soon. Roman Anthony is coming up soon. So the Red Sox could be contenders moving forward. And there's 2 other teams I think will be contenders in 2024. I think 2024 was a fluke. One is the Texas Rangers. There is a ton of talent on this squad. Plus, this is Bruce Bochy. So that means they're going to be good every other year. Don't you remember what he did in San Francisco? Every other year they won it all. So they won it all last year. Then a dip this year. But they, imagine if they have a healthy Jacob deGrom for the entire season. deGrom came back. That's like making an acquisition. They had Corey Seager coming back, Marcus Semien, Nathaniel Lowe, Wyatt Langford, Tavares, Garcia, Nathan Eovaldi, John Gray. There's a lot of talent on this squad. And they had a bad year. They had a fluke bad year. I think they're going to be contenders moving forward. Now, those are 4 teams that are not going to make the playoffs this year, who I think should do quite well. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the teams that have the talent. They just may not have the right person driving the car. And these are the teams that I think need a new manager in order to contend. Passion, drive, patience. Do you know what those are? That's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices that you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Hey, by the way, thanks for making Locked On MLB your first listen. I said it before, say it again. Hey, make your second listen this week be Locked On A's. It's going to be another episode with your pal Sully, and we're covering the A's and their what looks like will be their final week in Oakland. Although this whole saga has been so bizarre, who knows? They may wind up right back in Oakland. I don't know, and neither do you. But check us out. We've got another week of fun at Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, these are the teams to paraphrase Elton John and get back Honky Cat. A change will do him good. I think there are star managers out there. Hell, Joe Madden is available out there. There are other people like, give Don Mattingly another shot. I've been screaming to have Bruce Bochy's lieutenants finally getting their first big chance. There are potentially good managers. And look what happens when you give good managers another shot. Pat Murphy taking over the Brewers has been a godsend. Take a look what Mike Schilt has done with the San Diego Padres. Sometimes you need to have it. Sometimes a new manager or a manager who's had a little bit of experience elsewhere is exactly what you need. And for these teams, there's a lot of talent on these teams, but we've seen that they can't win, and the managers have been there long enough. Toronto Blue Jays, I've been screaming about them. They got so much talent on that team. They got MVP candidates, all-star pitchers, and they were a complete non-factor this year. They were sellers. I mean, if any team could use a new star manager to kickstart this franchise, it'd be the Toronto Blue Jays, who will become a huge market team because every time the Blue Jays do well, they have all of Canada behind them, and they become outrageously popular. Give the keys to Joe Madden and see what happens. What, did he suddenly get dumb because he managed the Angels? The St. Louis Cardinals are another one. There's so much talent has been on that team. And they contended for a while, but for the second straight year, they're going to be non-factors come the postseason. And Mozeliak has been there for a while and has made some bad moves. And then we're seeing the Marmalades, the manager. I don't know. The fact that so many talented players were traded away, so many big market, big ticket free agent type players. Like, I know that they were acquired via trade, like Arenado and Goldschmidt, but they were franchise type players that they acquired and have done exactly piddly poo for the team. So I wonder if this is a team that is now over a decade since they've last appeared in a World Series, and really has been a while since they've been a real factor in the postseason. 2019 was the last time they made it to the National League Championship Series. We're about halfway through this decade right now. So I think there might have to be a change in order there. The Cincinnati Reds drive me crazy because how many dynamic, talented players would be on one team and have them be this far under 500 and a non-contender? Ellie De La Cruz and company, they should be contending. So it's 6 years of David Bell as the manager. Half of the teams have been above 500 and half have been below. But he doesn't seem to be that big of a factor. I think a change should happen there. Definitely a change should happen with the Pittsburgh Pirates. They have an ace pitcher. They got star players. And they're not even remotely contending, even with the extended playoffs. Brian Reynolds stuck around, and this is what he gets. You get the O'Neill Cruzes or the Brian Hayeses who are ready to, take the big turn. And they've got a rotation of Mitch Keller, Bailey Falter, Jarrett Jones, and Paul Skeens, and they're not contending. Derek Shelter has been there for 5 seasons, and they have been factors in the postseason exactly 0 times. Again, a lot of young talent on that team. Give another manager a shot there. All right, 2 teams are very hard to figure out. They seem to have talent. They seem to have the right manager, but they're not quite sure what's happening. The Washington Nationals, for a while, Dave Martinez and his team looked like they were going to be turning the corner, and they were contending for a little bit in June. And they were a wild card contender in June. And Dylan Cruz could evolve into the next big star, but they fell apart after June. But there's a possibility they could be making a big leap forward with some of their young talent. It'll be interesting to see how they get out of the box. The Giants, I have no clue what's happening with this team, because on the surface, they seem to be contenders. And they did contend for a chunk of this summer. And they've had good pitching for a while. They had decent hitting for a while. And they had Bob Melvin, this highly sought-after manager. And something didn't click. And that included Melvin, who really, really did a bad job of handling the pitchers for a big chunk of the season. They're a wild card team for a while, but now they've fallen flat. Is it Melvin? Or do they just need another play? Do they need to be aggressive this offseason? The Giants have been salivating to make a big splash in the free agent market, trying for Correa, trying for Aaron Judge. It hasn't worked. Will they go after Juan Soto? There's a very easy way to get Juan Soto. Find out what his highest bid is and offer $1 more. It's really, really tough to figure out this Giants team. Well, look, when we come back, there are 5 teams left. 3 are lost causes, and 2, I'll just say it, are disgraces. And I have to make it clear, I'm talking about the organization and the team, not necessarily the players. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different from you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right. Who are the lost causes? Who are the teams that you look at and go like, no, they were bad last year and they're going to be bad next year? First and foremost are the disgraceful Los Angeles Angels. Any hope to see Mike Trout in the postseason again is slowly slipping away, as is seeing Mike Trout in his prime. When he's healthy, he's amazing. But we may never see him play a full season again unless they switch him to first base or DH, which I would do in 3, 2, 1. Now, this team is going to finish dead last in a division where they're with the A's, a franchise that's trying to lose games. They brought in Ron Washington, but there's something toxic about the Angels right now. And they just are bad. They're dead from the neck up, and they're playing an incompetent brand of baseball. They're going to finish above 500 with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout and Joe Madden. And what are they going to do moving forward? The other team that's a lost cause is sadly the Colorado Rockies. Can we please parole Bud Black? Bud Black has won more games than any manager in Colorado Rockies history and came within 1 win of finally delivering a division title to Colorado back in 2018. Black is a good manager and a good baseball man who's stuck in purgatory in Denver. Don't get me wrong, Denver's a beautiful city. They're just not going to contend anytime soon. And when I had just mentioned teams like the Blue Jays, the Cardinals, the Reds, and the Pirates could all contend before you know it if they had a good manager like Bud Black at the helm, give him a shot. Work something out. Get him the hell out of Colorado, because this rebuild is going to be way too long. Now, look, he's a fine manager, and he could help a team that needs a facelift. The Rockies do have some nice players. Brett Doyle is a good player. Ezekiel Tovar is a nice player. Hunter Goodman, Nolan Jones. But they just seemed primed for their fourth straight 90-loss season. And then comes the really sad tale of the Miami Marlins. I guess they should not have fired Kim Ng. This was a team that was really exciting in 2023. They were a playoff team. They played an exciting brand of baseball, and they just have torpedoed that club. Once again, every time they put something together, they wreck it. They wreck the damn team and won't spend money on the team, and it's a disgrace. I almost put them in the disgrace column, but they're not quite there yet. But they were a playoff team just 12 months ago. I know they didn't last that long to play, but that's not the point. They played meaningful baseball. But it's tough to see them turning things around next year. And the other day, losing 20-4 to the Dodgers certainly didn't help matters. And that brings us to the two disgraces. There are two franchises that right now are an utter disgrace beyond just the fact that they're losing, but because of the management and the lack of commitment and the fact that both teams seem to have ulterior motives that would help them if they continued being bad. One of them is the Chicago White Sox. Chicago White Sox, who played a historically bad brand of baseball last year. They were one of the worst teams in the history of baseball, if not the worst. As we're recording this, they're a few games away from matching the dreaded 1962 Mets loss. And right now they're hinting they're going to slash payroll. They're going to cut payroll. Are they trying to lose 140 games? Or are they just trying to lose? Are they just trying to lose so whatever the stadium's called now, what is it, Guaranteed Rate Field? I'm used to calling U.S. Cellular. Whatever the hell the name of the stadium is now can be empty. And they can point to it and say, see, no one's showing up. We got to move. Chicago, build us a new stadium. Or Nashville, build us a new stadium. Is that what they're trying to do? It sure looks like it. It sure looks like that's what they're trying to do. Like they have a motive other than putting a good product on the field. How do you have a team where you're probably not going to win 40 games out of 162 and say we're going to cut payroll? You have to spend, I'm not saying you have to be reckless, but you got to put, I don't know, major leaguers on the field if you want to field a major league team. Or do they have an ulterior motive, which makes them a disgrace? And of course, the biggest disgrace is the A's. The A's, who on the field made a tremendous turnaround. They've improved their team by 15, 20 games from last year and have played winning baseball since their disastrous May and June. That's for more than half a season. They've been putting a team that's above 500 on the field. But that's not the point. They're going to Sacramento, maybe. Staying in Oakland, maybe. Playing on a frying pan of artificial turf, maybe. They haven't been approved. The new situation hasn't been approved by the Major League Players Association, and there isn't a way in heaven or in hell that an agent worth their salt is going to allow one of their clients to sign with the Sacramento A's for a long term because they play in a minor league ballpark. It's going to be a disgrace. It's going to be a disaster. And that is not a reflection on the people of Sacramento, who could potentially be wonderful baseball fans, but they play in a minor league ballpark. And the A's have to share the minor league ballpark with another minor league team. The whole situation is a disorganized, disgraceful mess that Fisher, who is a fool, an idiot, and has earned nothing in his life, and baseball is bending over backwards to appease this fool. If you have a problem with me calling Fisher a fool, it's because you're a member of the Fisher family. And the move to Las Vegas is completely haphazard at this point. We don't know how it's being funded. And the way the A's are going to put a non-contending team on the field and have it get worse and worse should make Las Vegas say that we're not going to do business with you because you said you're going to bring us a contender. They're a disgrace. Not the players. The organization is a disgrace to Major League Baseball. And if Major League Baseball had a commissioner and they don't. But if they did, they would step in and see what's happening with the A's and with the White Sox, and for that matter, with the Marlins. Say, what the hell is going on here? Why can't you turn Miami, a city where every player wants to live, in your new ballpark? Why can't you put something decent on the field there and maintain it? You, Chicago, what are you really up to? You, A's, release your gag order. Release the gag order for potential Bay Area investors in the team and have the Giants give up territorial rights. There would be a team in San Jose. The A's will be playing in San Jose in 3, 2, 1 now. And there wouldn't be this awfulness of the Sacramento situation, which sounds like a spy novel. But here we are. So those are the teams and how I think they're going to be panning out in 2025 and beyond. I think the Red Sox, Cubs, Rays, and Rangers will contend. I think a group of teams need to get a new direction from their manager, that being the Blue Jays, Cardinals, Reds, and Pirates, and they could turn things around. Then you have two teams which are complete mysteries, that are the Giants and Nationals. They could make great strides or fall on their face. There are three teams that they're not doing anything next year, not the Marlins, not the Angels, and not the Rockies, and two teams that are a complete disgrace to the game of baseball. And there you have it. Well, we got a full weekend of baseball, and then eventually the season's going to end. And then we're going to have some fun because the postseason shall begin. To remind you what the trivia question was, which Milwaukee Brewers pitcher has the most wins in their franchise's history? Write down that here, and we'll talk about it over the weekend. I'm going to be doing some weekend shows on both Locked On A's and here, and setting up the end of the season, which should be an interesting spectacular. Talking about the teams that didn't contend and which one of them have hope for next year and which ones don't. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.